Everybody, thank you so much for being here today. This is True Tuesdays, brought to you by the New Children's Museum. I'm Lani Bautista Cabanilla, and these are my co-hosts. I'll be partnering with Emmy Gray on this talk. And today's session is called From A to Zoom Part 2, Juggling Work and Toddlers. Before we get started on our talk, here are some housekeeping rules, if you will, about today's talk and what to expect. So it'll be about a 30-minute presentation by Amy and I, as well as a 30-minute group discussion and sharing opportunity. And just a few reminders, we are recording this talk to share it in the future. If you can please mute your microphone, that would be really helpful to just cut out any noise and to help with our connection. Feel free to turn on your video if you want to share. And use our chat box. Megan Dickerson, Director of Exhibitions, is facilitating our chat box and will be moderating that. And we'll share with you at the end links to access our presentation and a way to stay in touch with us via email. Amy?
Great. Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Amy Gray. Thanks so much for being here with us today. So we have some really straightforward, no pressure goals for ourselves and for all of you for today. Lani and I really just wanted to take another opportunity, since this is part 2, to reflect on and share very openly about our experiences with working and juggling toddlers at the same time. And so we're going to share some stories and some tips and some coping tools that have worked for us and we hope may work for you. We're just really glad that you're here today. For the most part, today's just about sharing, and we hope you'll feel free to share towards the end of the presentation. As Lani mentioned, there's going to be a lot of time for that. And just know that this is really about just connecting, showing that we're not alone, that we are here, we can support one another. If you are joining us and you are not a caregiver, we're really glad you're here too, and we appreciate your perspective and hope that what's shared today will be inspiring and maybe can help you support the caregivers in your lives. The last thing I'll say is that Lani and I are excited to be here. We are also, we're arts administrators, we are museum educators, we're mamas of toddlers who are working at home. We, as Lani likes to say, we love all things art and babies. But we are not licensed social workers. So what we're sharing today is just from our experience, and we hope that it can be helpful and help to make some connections. So as Lani mentioned, we'd love to hear from you. So if you would like to and feel comfortable, you can introduce yourself via the chat room. We've got some prompts here for some of the things that you could share with us. Just really love to know who's with us and maybe even what brought you here. Also below, you'll see a couple of questions to ponder for the discussion later. You don't have to stick to script. These are really questions that Lani and I use as launch pads for what we did in our reflection for what we're sharing today. So as you're listening to us share a little bit, I hope some questions will come up for you. You can send them to Megan along the way or hold on to them for the second half of this, and we can all talk together via the chat room. Thanks. So we're going to start off by introducing ourselves and our full selves, which means our families. So this is a picture of my wild, wonderful, energetic family. We're a really interesting foursome. So I, again, am Amy. I'm the education manager at the New Children's Museum. Have been in my role for almost 5 years now. I love it. It connects so much with who I am and what I really bring to my home life as well. My husband, Bo, is featured here. He works with computers, so he's been very busy ever since all of this situation came to be. He's been very busy and also working from home, and together we've been really juggling all of our family needs together. And he also is a musician, which is, I think, has been a real silver lining for our experience the last couple of months, because music has been a real way to relieve some of the tension that is just building up and that we're all feeling, the boys and Bo and I. So speaking of the boys, these are my two sons, Oliver and Charlie. Ollie is 3 and Charlie is now 16 months. He was 15 months the last time we did this presentation. And you can read a little bit about them. They're very different people, which I love. It's also been interesting in this last couple months to see how that comes through in their experience. Ollie is energetic. He is very perceptive, and he asks a lot of questions. And so in the beginning of this, he asked a lot about when he could go back to school. That was a daily question. I have noticed in the last month that that has stopped. And now what he is doing is really kind of exploring his feelings about that through play. So he's playing with his animals, and they are going to school. And they're doing a lot of the activities that he, I believe, was doing himself, which has just been fascinating. And also, you know, I have mixed feelings about it. But I love when I'm able to see that happening and for him to share it with me. It's been hard, though, for him. And as we'll talk about later, there have been some moments of real intense emotion from him, some acting out, and we've all had to kind of work through that together. Now, Charlie, I want to mention, I think this is interesting. Ironically, so Charlie has been mobile now since he's been about a year old. And just recently in the last month, we're like, wow, he's really got his footing. He's stable. He's walking around. He knows how to, you know, navigate those curves and those little bumps and hills. So we've actually started taking away some baby gates and opened up his world. So for Charlie, things have expanded. And now he is, I believe, experiencing, you know, a lot of newness, whereas the rest of us, I think, are feeling more contained. Charlie's like out there in the world and loving it. So I feel a little bit good knowing that that's happening with him. And then together, the boys are kind of exploring some new things between themselves, which has been nice. The last thing I'll say is that this picture was taken in January at the last gathering that we went to, a birthday gathering. And we haven't been to a gathering of that type since, but we have been to a lot of creative birthday experiences with other families. And I really appreciate the kind of creativity that's coming out of this time. And I think it's a silver lining to remember. I'll let Lani now introduce her family.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
So this is my awesome, sweet family of 4. My husband, Reggie, like Amy, is deemed essential. So he's still reporting to work every day and has been since we've been all quarantining. My older daughter, Kaya, is almost 16. She'll be 16 this fall. She's currently a dance major at the School of Creative and Performing Arts here in Paradise Hills. And it's been an adjustment for her, right? She just started online learning, I think it was April 27th. And so these classes are now being graded. She was doing some photography outside earlier for one of her classes. So it's been an adjustment. Mila, on the other hand, is our little one who just turned 4 earlier this year, and she's a preschooler at SDSU's Children's Center. And she's super social and like needs to be around people. Like she is, I think, struggling the most right now, maybe next to me, because she misses her friends and our family so much. We don't know when she's going to return to school, and I don't know how comfortable I am about her returning back to school if and when they open. But it's really hitting hard, I think, for her in her age because, you know, little ones need that interaction. They need to be around other children their age. And so it's just really tough, I think. She's also, my dad was joking the other day when she was asking to go to their house. He was like, I think she's sick of all of you. She's tired of seeing us. You know, there's only so much like we can offer her. She just needs to interact with other people, other things. But this has been a real challenge for us. This photo, in fact, is of us on March 13th, the day before Disneyland closed to the public. And it was us celebrating Mila's 4th birthday. And I just remember that shift in our lives at this moment because it was already risky for us to be out there, and we just went ahead and did it. You know, everyone that was there knew that things were going to be changing pretty quickly, but no one really like talked about it. People were kind of maintaining their distance. It was really slow there. There wasn't a lot of people. So the next day when Disneyland shut down, we just decided as a group, there was no point in staying in that area. And I just wanted to be home and wanted to be safe with all the news that was happening pretty fast. So this is us, and this has just been an adjustment. But as we all work and go to school and do everything from home, everything is kind of just like falling on me for like the majority of the daytime. Is like I'm doing this and I'm working. I'm also being a parent and have to take care of all of the things in between while we're at home. Thankfully, right now is nap time, so this happens to be an hour that works for most of us. So that's my family.
So Lani and I think one of the nice things about planning this presentation and the one previously is that it's given Lani and I a chance to talk together and to share our experiences with each other, which just in its own way is cathartic and helpful. And it's also helped us to find some threads, some connections between our different experiences. And so we've used those and those topics as a way to structure what we're going to share today. We're going to start off by very briefly, as a refresher, going through some of the topics that we covered the last time, and then we'll spend a little bit more time with some new areas that are unique to this presentation. And to structure it all in a fun, playful, and related way, we're taking inspiration from a program that is often on in both of our homes, Sesame Street, and we will be looking and talking about letters of the day. So our first letter of the day is R is for routine. And I think we all know that routine is hugely important for especially little ones and their feelings of security and understanding and comfort. So when Lani and I talked about this a month ago, what we reflected on was that, there was a lot of uncertainty in the world, in our homes, in our schedules, but what we found most helpful was to establish just a few constants for all of us. And so those constants were a morning time together before work started, breakfast, getting dressed, getting the day started. Then in the middle of the day, if possible, carving out a little time for lunch. And then at the end of the day, I know more recently with me and my boys, that end of the day, I need to just shut my computer at 5:30, and I need to focus on family. And until 9:30, when everybody's asleep and dinner and bath and family time are, all those rituals are done, that's when I go back to work if needed, but I need to keep that time. So having those routines is important. And as Lani put here, if nothing else, just put on pants every day. Or don't show anybody the day. Right?
The other letter of the day we shared was P is for play. And it's something that Amy and I value greatly and still do to this day, over the last couple of months, is take some time to just pause and reconnect not only with your child, but yourself. So that means, for us, it still means going outside during the day at least once to just put away work and to go into nature, look at some bugs, have fun, go collect things. So we'll talk more about this in our new letters of the day, but we just wanted to show a refresher about P is for play and pausing for play breaks.
B is for bag of tricks. So in a nutshell, you may all have experienced this. I found in the beginning, and this still holds true, that sometimes I just need like 5 to 10 minutes to finish an email, finish a phone conversation, finish a thought that's work related. And my little one, may or may not be able to accommodate that. So these are ideas for kind of quick or not so quick projects that they can do, or connections that they can make, like virtual babysitters, which we'll talk more about later as well. But projects that you can have for them to kind of engage them in those 5 to 10 minutes that you need. And I won't go through the whole list, but I will say that the first one, Explore Missions, that has the image on the far left, is connected to that. This idea started last month with me creating these visual slash word lists for my older one, Ollie, to go and look for in the house, and using his Explorer binoculars that we made from a paper towel tube. What's changed is we still do this. I still use this, and I have endless lists. But now we go outside. We are fortunate to have a backyard, so we do backyard scavenger hunts. And since we started taking walks in our neighborhood, which wasn't always the case, but has started, we also do kind of visual scavenger hunts on our walks. So it's become part of his routine and part of his practice, and I think that's helped a lot, and definitely helps me in those times when I just need to wrap something up.
Mm-hmm. And the last recap letter of the day that we wanted to share is F is for flexibility. I'm sure many of you have been having to adapt to the new normal, and in having little ones at home, you just know that you'll be constantly interrupted. You may have a plan or a schedule that you've created for yourself, a routine, but sometimes things just fall out of place and they don't go as planned, and that's totally okay. This image here is of us in the morning and where I tend to start my day. Even though I set up a really nice space in my room to work, I found that it was just not going to function for us. And so I had to be in Mila's zone and work alongside her as she was having breakfast. And, you know, in the beginning, we were a stickler about screen time, but if that was just what was going to keep her sane and me sane to work and get through emails at the beginning of the day and have her eat her food, I just said, all right, so we'll do that and make sure that, you know, we pause and take a break later. But I'm sure flexibility has been something that we've all been thinking about and having to do.
Sure. So that was a refresher from our last presentation. And again, all those ideas, at least for our experience, still hold true, and I hope can be helpful to some of you. The next few slides that we're going to go through are new letters, new topics. You know, it's been another month, and Lani and I were talking about it, and we're sharing together that, you know, in some ways there's been a lot more routine and we've kind of established routines, but then some things have gotten a little shaken up. I can share more later about my experience with our routine and how that's been changed a little bit. And then with that, also that some things have just gotten harder. Some things have just gotten harder. Mm-hmm. And we've been, you know, struggling to just to keep things happy and hopeful for our families. So we want to talk about all of that. We're going to do it continuing with the letters of the day. And our first one that we're going to focus on is O is for outside. So, and that's getting outdoors and out of the home. When I was talking to Lani about it, I shared that when the quarantine first happened, I felt that I think subconsciously I was keeping my family in our house, literally in our house. Again, like I mentioned, we are fortunate to have a backyard space, but I was keeping them in the house until things kind of became somewhat normal for me. And then I eased up a little bit, and now we've been exploring our backyard a lot. We've been out there constantly. And then, as I mentioned, also sometimes taking walks in the neighborhood, sometimes taking drives. I think that that change of scene has been hugely important for us on a daily basis. It's become part of our routine. So we go out in the morning before it gets too hot. And then again, at that 5:30 mark or so, when the boys are ready and I'm ready to shut my computer down, we go outside again. And it's been really important for all of us. And then if needed, my husband will sometimes take the boys on a walk, and that helps me to finish up a project if something's just kind of taking a little more time. It also releases a lot of energy. We're all feeling that pent up energy. So it gets them tired. I'll just admit, it gets them tired, and it's nice. We all want to rest well. And so they definitely do more when they've had a chance to go outside. The thing I'll also say is that it's started off as something we kind of experimented with. I think now that we've been in quarantine as long as we have, it's become a necessity for us. And I don't think we could get by each day without some kind of outdoor happening for our family. And I think talking to some families, a lot of people are feeling that way. We're all kind of trying to establish what are our comfortable limits for that. And we all have different different feelings on it, but I know that the longer that this situation goes on, I'm sure the more we'll have to figure out how to diversify the experience for ourselves and our little ones. And the outside has endless things to explore, and little ones get so much out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll add to that. I know, in the last couple of weeks, we're fortunate enough to live in San Diego where it was like 85 degrees a couple weeks ago. And we've been enjoying a lot of water play outside. Like water play has really saved us and has been really fun and relaxing. And we've, built a lot of memories in our little backyard area around water and, a little pool we set up back there. But I started to reflect the more that I thought about this, since we were spending a lot of time back there. And this photo of Mila wearing a mask reminded me about how we actually would take most of our play breaks in the front yard and do a little like walk around the perimeter of our cul-de-sac. But I stopped doing that. And I thought, oh, maybe we're not doing that as much because we're playing in the water in the backyard. But then I started to think about me and my fears about going outside in the front, because that's where the deliveries come. That's where unexpected visitors come. That's where like the yard workers will show up that are at the neighbor's house, but they suddenly came to my house, which is the wrong house. And I think I had some subconsciously started to become more afraid, seeing people not follow the rules of wearing a mask. And so I think just was like, okay, we're safer back here. So I suddenly started to remove myself from an area, and also started to remove her from this area that she loves to go to. And so to combat that fear, I thought, you know what, we're going to have to face this eventually one day. And so if I just put myself in the frame of mind of what do I need to do to feel protected and be prepared, so will she. And so we started to go to the mailbox together, but in order to do that or to ride her bike, we have to like wear our masks just to practice that behavior so she gets used to that. Because we don't know how long this is going to go on. And not everyone in my neighborhood wears masks when they're walking their dogs or whatever. And so just to be careful, we put those on. And it's been helpful. It's similar to that idea of, putting on the oxygen mask for yourself before you put it on your child on an airplane. Dealing with the shift of going outside, but also, teaching your little ones how to adapt to the new normal. But yeah, I didn't realize it until like this morning that I became more afraid to go outside over time. Like I've also become a lot more relaxed in some ways, but I think that just fear of the unknown has just grown in me in some way. And yeah, it's just been scary. So I think to Amy's point, we're all adapting to what is happening now, trying our best to go outside because we just have to, but also preparing ourselves for what the world is going to continue to live by.
I appreciate what you're sharing, Lani, about the way that you're introducing the mask wearing to Mila and creating that kind of normalcy for her. Because right now, Ollie hasn't worn a mask yet. We have one, but he's very resistant to it. So I'm trying to navigate and figure out how best to introduce it. And those are helpful tips for me on how to go about maybe doing that.
So the next letter of the day is R is for reassurance. And I just have to say this slide is about how hard it's been for Mila, and the fact that I've seen her act out and become more upset as days go by. And in turn, I start to feel even more frustrated and stressed out. And I sometimes can respond to her in a way where I pause and I look at her in the eye and I try to see where she's coming from and talk through it with her and have her understand where I'm coming from. But sometimes I just can't. And I have to like deal with it in the moment that I feel horrible about later. And then she ends up turning away and going to the other room. Like one week she came to me after 5 minutes of taking her own break in our room and came back with a drawing and, to like come back up to me, to communicate to me. And so, in talking about this with Amy, I just thought, of course she's frustrated. Of course I'm frustrated. Rather than being more stressed out about that situation and me trying to be like the good, perfect parent, like let's just get through it together.
Yeah.
And acknowledge it when we can in the best way. And so for me, it's about knowing that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be overwhelmed, because this is crazy. This situation is just insane. And as long as we make those moments matter when we can connect, like bath time, dinner time, even the weekend. Sometimes I think, oh gosh, this week was so rough with work and I feel like I wasn't connecting with her as much as I wanted to. Like, let's make sure the weekend is like all about being together, having fun. As long as I have those objectives and goals in mind, it helps me feel sane. And yeah, sometimes I need that reassurance, because I become hard on myself. Like, oh, why did you say that? Or why did you do that? Like, you don't have to talk like that to her, but I can't help it. And I have to share something about this photo, and there has to be an explanation about it. So, and Megan, as our play expert, can probably analyze this too, but in looking through my phone of pictures about, this topic, there was this time, and Mila's been doing this kind of regularly. Maybe it started about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but this is her going to her play corner in our living room and bearing all her toys on herself, including this Peppa Pig house, and saying, I'm trapped, I'm stuck, I'm a trapped princess, get me out of here, help me. And I couldn't think, but like, how metaphorical is this? It's like she's crying for help, she's stuck underneath all her toys, she's crying for help, and it's like she's talking about herself, but she's also talking about me. And when I shared this with Amy, we were like having this moment together about how her son Oliver does the same exact thing with like just a bunch of pillows.
Yeah.
And so
times.
Yeah, and so I don't know if it comes from like watching stories about understanding that there's like a helper and that there's like someone in need, if it's like it comes from shows, or if it's them displaying like something that they're observing at home. So we could talk more about this later, but I just had to share this photo because it speaks. She looks happy, but there's another photo where she's like, I probably should have shown that one.
The real.
But in the moment you don't think about it. And I'm so glad that I could just take a picture of stuff like this and look at it later and try to break down like what is happening in this photo. Yeah. So to all the caregivers out there, just give yourself grace. Know that this is tough and it's okay to feel how you feel.
Yeah. I was saying to Lani, this last one, checking in after a tantrum, which we wrote down in response to thinking about how to respond to a toddler when they have a moment like that. But then I said, you know what? Sometimes I have the tantrums. Sometimes, I'm having the tantrums, and then I'm the one going to my toddler and saying, I'm sorry about that. And I'm apologizing. And, and that we've had a lot of those back and forth moments, especially in the last couple of months. And all I keep telling myself is that as hard as it is, I'm doing my best. He's doing his best. We just have to be compassionate with each other and remember that it's going to be okay. We're all going to get through this. And I really feel that. And as hard as it is, we are just going to get through this. And we just got to take it day by day.
Right. So the next letter of the day is S is for support systems. And this is really about, we're 2 months into this, and I hope that you have a way of reaching out to people, TV shows, food, whatever it is that gets you by having this tough time and this adjustment. For me, I get really, emotional about thinking about the support that I have, not only within the family that I have at home, but also my friends who are dealing with similar situations. Thankfully, Reggie goes to work early, comes home kind of midday. So I just juggle everything for most of the day. But then this time of day, I'm able to like focus while he's home and able to take over. But I also have a really great network and support system of friends that I've known for decades now. And this is a photo of us with our little ones doing a little FaceTime chat with each other just to reconnect, because, we're used to seeing each other every week or so like that. And I feel like in a way it's made us all closer. And, you know, I just think that we need to take care of ourselves and find strategies that work for us. And that means, you know, communicating with other people, but also trying your best to communicate your needs to anyone who can support you. You know, for me, like at the bottom of this slide, screen time is okay. I think there's a lot of anxiety about how much screen time is happening at home with your little one in order for you to get things done. And for us, we've created a schedule for that so that it's not just a loose thing, but we do rely on that. And frankly, you know, our older one, our teenager, she's on her screen all the time. She before quarantine, she was already communicating with her friends that way, and now she goes to school in this new format. And so for her, it's not really new. But I just have to express that it's really important for me. And if others can share too, I'd love to hear about what support systems you've lined up for yourself and other people or places or, you know, organizations, books, things that have been helpful for you.
Let me share. I was telling Lani about these books. Now, Ollie we have discovered, is very musical. He loves listening to music. He loves singing. He loves dancing. And I discovered these books. So plug for Sandra Boynton and all her books out there. But these books are music compilations that Sandra Boynton, who does a lot of children's books, she does the Going to Bed book, Pajama Time, Moo Ba La La La, all these wonderful illustrations you probably recognize. She has put together these different compilations along with different musicians, and she's created the lyrics and they've added the melodies. And these are books that include like 10 to 20 songs, and then they have pictures that go with them. And you can follow along. That has a CD. All I can say is this has been one of my saving graces in the last month. There are many of them out there, and they're pretty reasonably priced. They're about $10 a piece. I give these to Ollie, and he will actually sit and listen to this and go along with the book for a good 20 minutes. And Ollie's very energetic. So this is something he's found focus in, and I'm so appreciative. And it's also something I think he's really gaining from. So I put this in the resource list at the end of the presentation. Again, just a little plug for those because I found them incredibly helpful in the last month. And it's just a nice surprise engagement activity for Ollie and maybe for your little one.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of activities.
So A is for activities, and I'll read the finer print here. Some with you and some with you around. So I'll start off by sharing that in my role at the museum, I, among other things, oversee early learner programming now, and usually working with a team to create programs. Right now, I'm developing content with my family because I have early learners at home, and we're working together to try and experiment with projects and then videotaping those and sharing them through some of our resources that you'll find on the museum's website. It's been really nice to have an opportunity to overlap in this way because I feel like it's benefiting my boys. Because they're getting something out of it, and it's letting me put my educator hat back on, which I've been in management for years, so it's just nice to be in that role a little bit now. I have to watch myself and keep a check on it because the professional in me wants things to go a certain way, and the boys are my boys, so they're going to do what feels best to them. So I've had to let go and say, this is real. And I bring this up because what I've embraced and what I find really helpful in this conversation and in this moment is if you watch any of the videos we put together, there's a little editing done, but for the most part, what you're seeing is what's really happening. Sometimes Ollie goes right out of the screen and comes back. Sometimes he doesn't come back. And you know, things don't go as planned, but I think that's the beauty of it. That's the that's the realness of it. And that's really how things are going to go at home if you try these activities yourself. So some of these pictures come from some of the videos that we've done. Don't be deceived. These are still shot moments of a wider story. But they're things that have really worked too. So just to highlight a couple, these are indoor activities, and then we'll look at some outdoor options. Ollie here is threading a necklace together. These are pasta beads that we made together, and then I let him put together his own necklace, which I'm actually wearing right now.
So sweet.
Held up well, and I love it. I love it. And this is something that my very energetic 3-year-old can focus on. And he spent time and he focused on that project. And that was really cool to see. And it was cool for him because he enjoyed it. And we kept those beads and we did more necklaces at his grandparents', back at our house again. So this was a project that just kept going. And I really appreciated that about it and how much he enjoyed it. And the other picture I'll point out, and then Lani has some here from her family, is Ollie and I cooking together. So I know cooking together is not an option when you're working. This is something we would do on a break. Mm-hmm. So when we take a break to play together or to be together, some connection time, this is the kind of thing we would do. And he loves it. It also is something that gives me a little calm and peace. Mm-hmm. So baking together has been a nice thing that we've been doing both during the day when we can, but on the weekends a lot of the time as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump to the next slide, Amy, because it's a continuation of A's for activities, but it focuses more on the outdoor stuff. Speaking of going outside, the thing that I would love to point out is that we've been super into mud. So the last presentation we shared last month, I talked about sand and the sandbox that my husband had put together in our garage. But recently, since we've been in the backyard, we have more access to some awesome dirt. And we've just been making mud pies. And so I feel like that's the cheapest, most simplest, but coolest thing to do. I remember making mud pies till I was like maybe 10. I just like loved being outside. So that's been really great for us. You know, all you need is some fresh dirt and some water nearby, and some containers to put them in. And, you know, going back to water play, it's such a great thing to do. I would invest in simple spray bottles, different containers that you can scoop and dump and, you know, get things wet. We're talking about washing toys, giving your toys a bath as one of those activities today. We also love going on nature collections. And so this is a photo of us collecting leaves and berries that we find in the street. And so I think what I do want to share about moments like this is when you have the time, if you can, in reading and finding ways to connect more with Mila, really focus and observe what's happening during these moments. If you can just take a couple minutes to do that and not think about anything else. One of my really good friends is a preschool teacher, and she was actually Kaya's preschool teacher like more than 10 years ago. And now she teaches preschool teacher for Google. And she had this amazing quote that she posted on her social media, which I can't remember verbatim, but it was about how preschool teachers are researchers. They observe children all day, every day. And now it's on our hands to do that since our children are with us every day. Mm-hmm. And observe what's going on, notice what's happening, get in your kids' mind, see what they're interested in, listen to them, you know, get curious with them. And what do you do with it? Nothing. Be in touch with it. Be in touch with it. Know and be grateful that you have taken in that information and that you're connected to it. You know, you don't have to do anything with it or feel like it has to be useful, because it's important for you to know what your child is going through. That's like the least you can do. And so I try to tell myself that when, you know, we're outside, whether that's in, you know, the weekend when I can really think about this, is really listen and connect with her and see what she's interested in. Right now it's mud and roly-polies. We have a giant collection. Sorry, I don't know if that's disgusting for some people, but we have a giant collection of roly-polies. Yeah, Amy, do you want to add to this outdoor activity slide before we wrap up?
No, I just agree. Again, like we said before, going outside has been really helpful, and all the things you can do. Our patio is full of chalk. It's full of water. It's full of toys. We've just been spending a lot of time out there, and there's so much as Lani was saying, so much engagement that's possible, just even on a patio space or a driveway, if that's a safe choice for you. It's been really helpful for us over the last month. And these are just some of the things that we've been doing. So we've shared with you a lot about our experience, and really curious to hear about yours. If you've joined us since the start of this presentation, if you haven't introduced yourself and you'd like to, we'd love to hear about you. You can answer some of these questions here and send them to the chat room that Megan is moderating. Thanks again, Megan. I know I can see that there's been some conversation in the chat room as we've been talking. Maybe there are questions or things to share that are people want to start with now, or if you need some prompting, we put some questions here just to kind of give you something to think about, but it's really an open floor. You can go through the chat room, or you're more than welcome to show us yourself in video or just with your voice, and we'd love to hear from you and just connect together.
I know we have a small group, so we may, I would love to get, Megan, if you can respond to anything, because I feel like we need your brain to answer some of these things.
Oh, I just love how real and thoughtful you both are being, and I think it's really lovely that you've had this way to connect with each other too, thinking about the presentation. And one of the things I was thinking about, and this is sort of a logistical thing, but now that you're going outside more and you're preparing to be on sidewalks and in parks and things like, how do you prepare your littles? How do you talk to them before you go outside? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer first, Amy?
I want you to answer first, Lani, if you're open to it, because I know you've been working on that a little bit before, you said.
Yeah. So I think what I do is I say, hey, Mila, do you want to come with me to go put this letter in the mailbox? Or do you want to ride your bike? You want to come outside with me? She's like, sure. And so I say, okay. And before we even enter the garage to put our shoes on, we usually go out through that part of the house. I say, okay, we have to put our masks on to protect ourselves. Do you remember why? And I don't know how, but she comes up with the weirdest things. She's like, yeah, because a lot of people are sick. And sometimes she says that, sometimes she says things about antibodies. Like, really? I don't know where she gets these. Yes, I don't know. And I don't talk to her about antibodies. But she understands, I think, just in these last 2 months that there is a virus, that there is an illness. She knows that we're not sick, but she knows that we could get sick and that we could potentially get other people sick. So we don't really talk about that in detail when we're going to go outside. I think it happens in other moments because I don't want to dump that all on her and, make her, I'm already in fear of going outside, that I don't want to like put that on her in that moment. So I make it quick. Usually I'm just like, okay, we have to put our masks on. It's like put on your shoes.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get your feet hurt. We're going to put on our masks, and then, we're going to go put this, letter in the mailbox. She's like, okay. And so we go and do that, and then we come back, and then she knows she could take it off. We've only done that a couple times. And then the day, Sunday, when we went to go deliver stuff to family and friends, she was wearing her mask, and when it fell off, she got really worried. So it was super quick for her to know that she had to keep it on. And so I think that's just her, and maybe just her observations and noticing us do it, because Reggie comes home from work from the grocery store every day, and he does a full-on mask. She sees him come home, taking his clothes off in the garage, coming inside with no, barely anything on. So she's understanding and seeing these things, even though we're not talking about it. Yeah.
They're absorbing everything.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you've been recently going on for walks. So how has that been for you?
Right. We go on walks. And I will share that our neighborhood, we've been watching, and there's not a lot of people walking in our neighborhood. So we've felt comfortable with bringing the masks with us, but not putting them on.
Yeah,
we have them. So I've shared with Ollie enough like you were saying with shoes, you know, we put on shoes to keep our feet from getting hurt. We put our masks on to keep ourselves healthy. So he kind of understands that. And we've talked a little bit about there's a virus out there that's making some people sick. And we do these things to stay healthy, like wash our hands and put our mask on. But we haven't enforced it yet. So it's interesting to hear your experience with Mila, because I anticipate that might be a little bit of what we have with Ollie, if he's open to it. Now, he's been pretty adamant against the mask so far because they kind of scare him. And I've noticed that with Charlie too. We had masks on the other day when we went to visit a relative, you know, from a safe distance, and Charlie woke up from a nap and saw mom and dad with masks on, and I think flipped out over that. And it was hard. It was hard to, how do you explain that to a 16-month-old? So I think as it all becomes more normal, like putting on your shoes before you go outside, I hope we'll all get in the rhythm of it, but I think it's going to be a tough transition.
Yeah.
What about other people on the call? Anybody else have?
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Anne brought up the drive arounds to go. The world's still out there.
Yeah.
And Tracy even mentioned that she does do that. Bingo's always fun in the car too. If you're just doing a drive, like kind of like a scavenger hunt, you know?
Exactly.
Or how many people are not wearing masks?
Yeah.
Or how many are?
Yeah.
We did a little bit of that the other day, just me and Bo, but but we can involve Ollie next time.
Yeah, it's going to be a work in progress. I just, it's not going to be perfect. And honestly, these things don't even stay on their faces because they're moving around so much. So I'm curious to see how this will continue. But that's just how we try to prepare ourselves. And I think the more that they see other people doing it and the more that we model that, if it's required, then they'll understand that it's a need to. And sometimes, Amy, you got to get a cute fabric to make it fun. You know, you can get maybe his favorite characters or something, put on a mask, and then he'll know that it's not scary. Yeah.
I love the question about what has changed for you.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody has anything that they'd like to share, either in the chat or just to speak.
What has changed?
You learned, you know?
Yeah.
Karen, I think we can hear you typing. Suddenly it stops. Wait a second.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay, shout out to my friend Karen. I've known Karen since second grade. She's a nurse. She's one of our amazing superhero healthcare professionals who's working in San Jose. Yeah, thank you for all you do. Thanks for being here.
I didn't know I wasn't muted. I'm so sorry. Let me mute myself. I was honestly just listening to you guys talk about the masks and like how to educate your kids and stuff. It's so interesting to me. I don't have kids yet, but we're working on that. And I was also just typing an email to someone. Obviously, you heard that. I'm sorry. But yeah, thanks for letting me join in. I'm going to continue to listen, but silently.
Well, I'm actually curious if you could speak to how are the hospitals dealing with masks? Like are children coming? Do you see children in masks coming there? How is that?
So the hospitals, I think for the most part, are not having visitors.
Right.
At all. So, and we don't have a peds unit, so we don't have kids here generally. But for now, for the adults that are coming in to if they have appointments for the laboratory or, outpatient stuff, they're allowed to come in. They're giving masks at the door.
Oh, interesting.
And that's new. That just started maybe less than 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, they just weren't letting, I don't know what they were doing. I guess people were still coming in, but just 2 weeks ago, they started making sure you had a mask before you walked in for staff and for anyone. So
that's interesting. That's so good for us to know.
Interesting time. Yeah. The one day I came after being off for 3 days, they're like, "Excuse me, ma'am, where's your mask?" And I was like, whoa, I was off for 3 days and this is new. I'll go get my mask. And they were just like, "You have to have your mask." And I was like, well, I usually get it when I get here. So So now I make sure to have
it on
I know, right?
prior.
I'm like, oh God. Yeah, I make sure to have some at home to come
Yeah.
in with, and it's just like, yeah, it's a totally new normal.
Yeah.
Every day for the last month was like something new, but it's kind of slowed down. We're kind of like in the groove now, so
Yeah.
nothing crazy new, but also, yeah, it's been interesting. So.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here.
Oh, you're
Yeah, me too.
welcome.
Diana,
Say that again?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was on mute and I was trying to talk. I totally forgot.
No worries.
Like, of course. I just wanted to touch because the last time I joined in was the part 1 of this, and a lot has changed for us. And you said, has it really been a month or two?
2.
Gosh, I just lost count. Oh my gosh.
No.
So totally guilty in the beginning of all this. I was like searching on Amazon for all the different things I could keep my son busy trying to buy things. And of course I did buy plenty, but he didn't take to any of those things. So we've had to become resourceful. And in the chat I had mentioned we did the sandbox, which he absolutely loved. The very first time, I think he played with it for 45 minutes straight, and it was so awesome. I think I had texted you, Lon.
Yeah, she was like, I just sat there. I just sat down. And I'm like, yes, just
Oh,
sit.
that's great.
I think I sat there and like scrolled through Instagram aimlessly, not even thinking. But I was like, I texted Lon. I was like, this is amazing. So, like Amy said, we also are fortunate to have a backyard, which with the rain and everything, it was pretty crazy. It was a jungle, so it kind of forced us to clean up, which we're still working on. But with the weather being nice, we've definitely used the backyard space, which has opened up a lot. I'm kind of a freak. I have OCD about a lot of things. So this time I'm still learning to like let go of like messes and things not being put in place.
Yeah, I hear you.
My husband's a lot. That's one thing I've been working on since the beginning, since becoming a parent, but even more so now. You know, my husband's always like, why don't you just wait till the end of the night to clean it up? He's just going to go at it again. But utilizing things in the backyard, just I think being resourceful. But one thing within the last week that I've noticed is with me being home more is that Quentin's been a lot more attached to me. So it's making it hard when like I need to do little things like taking a shower or cook dinner. He just wants to be next to me, which has been hard. So I just started going back to work full time this week. So that's going to be a challenge. Luckily, he's with my mom right now. So she's able to help for a few days. So just a few changes, but we've definitely been doing the drive arounds, which has helped for all of us, I think, just getting out. And like Lani said, the support system, just seeing like familiar faces and talking to people has been really helpful and nice. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, really appreciate that.
I want to bring up one question that Diana brought up, which is how do you deal with seeing or not seeing close family members? You know, because I know that some people are starting to think about expanding their bubbles as people that they know that they've been quarantining and adding people in.
Yeah. We definitely did that for Mother's Day.
Yeah. Mother's Day
we haven't seen my husband,
right?
Yeah, and I don't know if like you guys had mentioned if the time has gone by that we felt a little bit more lax, you know. I was telling Lon the other day, I don't know if it's also the weather, like the mood's changing. So it could be just a combination of things, but we kind of opened up our circle a little bit more this past Mother's Day.
Yeah, we so our family that are in town, initially it was just me and Bo and the boys, and we were just very safely trying to distance ourselves from everybody just to keep everybody safe. And then we connected again with my in-laws, and that's been huge because they're such a part of our daily lives. So we're all kind of quarantining together in separate homes, but really quarantining together. And then on Mother's Day, we did have a get together with the wider family, but the wider family was in the backyard, social distancing with masks and chairs and picnicking. And we were inside the house, and the boys were like looking through a screen and waving and eating. And it was odd, but it was still being together. So, you know, just that. And I noticed how much it seemed to mean to Ollie, especially. He was so excited to see everybody, and there's so much love that comes out of them. And I just really appreciated that. At the same time, my mom, who lives out of state and usually visits every 2 to 3 months, was due for a visit this last month and couldn't come. And it's been hard, and we've been trying to FaceTime, but I personally feel the loss there. The mom's not here. Mom was supposed to be here last week, and she's not. And we don't know when we'll see each other again in person. And that's hard. And it's hard for her to be away from the boys because they're growing so rapidly. So we just do the best we can with FaceTime, but it's tough. It's been tough.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. It's been a really sweet and meaningful talk, despite, you know, it being really intimate. I think that that's what makes it really special. So to wrap things up, for today, we'll share this awesome list of resources that we won't go over line by line, but will be available when we share this chat later. Really great ways to come up with activities and things to do at home, some awesome people to look to for support. And then next week, we'll be featuring Megan here. Do you want to give a quick blip?
Chris might tell me for using the photo. So some of you know that I study play and play work, and I have a colleague who is a researcher in the UK named Chris Martin, and he specializes in screen time and thinking about how kids use mobile technology in their outdoor play. So I just thought he'd be an interesting person for us to chat with because they're all questions about screen time. So please spread the word about next week's chat. He looks like he's about to punch somebody, but he's and we'll post details for that on our website and on Instagram.
It's gonna be great. All right,
want to sign us off, Amy?
Yeah, just thank you again for being here. We know just how hard it is to even be in this moment in this Zoom call for however long you could be. And we just really appreciate it. And those who watch this later, we appreciate you taking the time to do it then. Hope it's helpful. You can access this presentation in the next few days via the museum's website. You'll see this here at thinkplaycreate.org. And all the resources, again, that Lani mentioned will be in the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to see those and hopefully use them. And we hope just to stay connected with all of you. So thank you to those who were here today. We hope we'll see you at another True Tuesday in the future. If you'd like to connect with us, if you have further kind of thoughts or just want to stay connected, please email us at education@thinkplaycreate.org. That we will receive that, and we will get back to you, and we just really would love to hear from you and know how we can support you. That's what True Tuesdays are about, making connections and trying to be supportive to each other and to the community. So please let us know what we can do for you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a Tuesday.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.